Hello guys. So today I'm going to look at aggregate demand shock, and we are going to look at two scenarios. The first scenario is a situation whereby there is an aggregate demand shock and the central bank decide not to take any action. So I'll start with my drawings. So let's say this is my initial long run aggregate supply curve 0. This is my aggregate demand 0. And this is my short run aggregate supply curve 0, right? So I'll call this one output 0 potential, and where the three are meeting is the inflation at that period. So that base, I'm using base 0. Okay, so let's say we are assuming that there is a negative shock. So when there's a negative shock, it is going to shift the AD leftwards. So the AD curve shift up to AD0. Sorry, AD1 at a new levels of Y1, and inflation 1, right? So this because of the AD, because we have a negative shock, it causes the AD to shift from AD0 to AD1. So it comes here, great. Now let's look at the situation. This is what we are here now, right? Okay, so with this, what happens? Now, if the central bank decide not to take any action here in the short run, then market players or economic agents will just assume that okay, once that the economy is now below the potential level that they expect, then in the long run they are going to anticipate that in the long run the economy will have to fall back to its previous state, right? Now, in order for this to fall back, then they will also assume that then that means prices would have to fall. So they will have lower expectation of prices. So, and if you remember, we said AS is what equals to expected inflation plus lambda Y minus Y potential plus price shock. Great. Now, once economic agent will anticipate that okay, in order for the economy to fall back in to its previous equilibrium in the long run, then that will mean that the prices will have to fall, right? So they will have to, that means they will have lower expectation of what? Inflation of prices. And once they have lower expectation of this, then this will cause our supply curve to shift downwards, right? So that our supply curve is going to shift until it gets to this point. That is short run aggregate supply curve. I'll call this one 2 until it gets to this point, right? So at this point, you're going to have the same days. So what it means is that in the long run, we are going to get back to what? The Y potential, but what? At a lower inflation, a lower price. So the price will now shift from here up to here. So let me summarize what we did. There is a negative aggregate demand shock, and that has caused the AD curve to shift from AD0 to AD1, which is this one. Great. At a new equilibrium level of this, which is this one and this one. Great. Now, because the economy is now below the potential level, economic agents will anticipate that then in the future, prices are going to fall in order for the economy to get back to its previous state. That means they will have lower expectation for inflation, right? And because this one goes down, it causes the AS towards short run aggregate supply to shift downwards. Also shift until it gets to the point where the long run and the AD are meeting, which is this point. So that at this point, at this inflation or this price, that means the economy can get back to what its previous state or its potential level, but at a lowest price, which is what this P2. Okay, so the second scenario that we are going to look at is the situation whereby there is a negative AD shock, and the central bank decide to stabilize inflation and output in the short run. So let me draw my curves again. This is my long run. Aggregate supply, period 0. This is my aggregate demand for period 0. And this is my aggregate short run, aggregate supply in period 0. So this is why the potential level for 0, and I trace it. This becomes the inflation for period 0. So this is the same as inflation target because this is the base inflation, right? So we are here. Now let's say there is a negative shock, so that will shift the AD. The AD shifts up to AD1, right? In this case here, up to here. So inflation period 1. So let's look at what has happened. We have Y1. So because of the negative AD shock, output has fallen from the potential level to Y1, and inflation has also fallen up to this point, right? So if the central bank seeks to stabilize inflation and output in the short run, then the central bank would have to respond to this. Now, if the central bank wants to respond to this, because the central bank wants outputs to go back, and the central bank also wants inflation to the central bank also wants, and because the central bank also wants inflation to be at inflation 0.0, so then what the central bank will have to do is what? To use monetary policy. Now we wrote the monetary policy as what? This bar plus lambda multiplied by inflation. Great. So the AD has caused this one to shift. The negative shock has caused this one to shift here, right? Now, if the central bank also wants to stabilize inflation, that is, the central bank wants inflation to go back to 0.0 and output also to increase up to this point. Then what the central bank can do is what? To use easing monetary policy. Easing monetary policy would mean that central bank would have to what? Reduce the autonomous. Now, when the central bank reduces autonomous, it means R will increase, right? So R will fall. But we've already agreed that anytime the central bank increases the autonomous, changes the autonomous, it shifts the AD curve, right? But in this case, the central bank has decreased the autonomous. That means R is going down, and investment will go down. Sorry, investment will go up, and output will what? Increase. That means then AD will shift back to the previous. So AD will be shifting back again because of the what? The autonomous change in R. It will shift. So let me use this marker. So the AD will shift back again. Oh, sorry, this one is the AD 0. Great. So the AD will shift back again from the red one. It will continue to shift until it gets back to what? The previous state. Until it gets back to its previous state again. It's okay. Until it gets back to its previous state again. Yeah, so until it get back to its previous again. So let me explain for the last time. Now this is the initial equilibrium here at this point here, and there is a negative AD shock. The negative AD shock causes the AD to shift from AD0 to AD1, which is this point at the new equilibrium levels of what? Y1 and inflation period 1, right? Now, because the central bank wants to stabilize inflation and output in the short run, what it has to do is what? To use monetary policy. Now, if the central bank wants to increase output, then they have to what? Reduce the autonomous rate. Now, once the autonomous rate is reduced, what it means is that real interest rate will go down, investment will go up, and output will also go up. That is why it is going to cause the AD. Because if you remember, we said that time there's a change in the autonomous R, it shifts the AD. But because in this case it has been reduced, it is going to shift the AD what? Rightwards until it gets back to what? The previous state. So it will continue to increase. So it gets to this point again where the inflation target is what achieved, and this output level is also achieved. Thank you.